to Netanyahu's dystopian vision for post-war Gaza. Now, this report, the full report that I looked at in depth and actually translated the PowerPoint presentation linked to this report that was given to members of Netanyahu's administration back in December. It was reported in the New York Times. It was also reported in Hebrew media and in a number of other media in the West also. And basically, so it's talking about sharing power with Arab states, particularly those that have normalized relations with Israel or are on the verge of normalizing relations with Israel under the Abraham Accords that, of course, were introduced under the Trump administration. So the vision basically is to go from the Gaza that has effectively been destroyed and decimated by almost 7 months of bombardment and genocide by Israel into what you see on the right-hand side for me, this kind of Dubai, Singapore type area with, of course, if you see the gas exploration platforms off the coast of Gaza, which, of course, is related to the Gaza gas reserves that Palestinians have never been able to lay their hands on, thanks to Israel. Now, the New York Times analysis is, I have to say, a very clean version, very superficial. What it actually says is that under the proposal, the Arab-Israeli alliance working with the US would appoint Gazan leaders, we'll come on to what that actually means, to redevelop the devastated territory devastated by Israel, overhaul its education system, we'll also come on to that, and maintain order. After between 7 and 10 years, the alliance would allow Gazans to vote on whether to be absorbed into a united Palestinian administration that would govern in both Gaza and the Israeli-occupied West Bank. In the meantime, the plan suggests the Israeli military could continue to operate inside Gaza, so for the next 10 years, basically. Now, I covered this report quite extensively at my Substack. Basically, there are 3 phases to the plan. First of all, to cleanse northern Gaza of Hamas, a plan which is certainly not successful. And in the future, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, Bahrain, Jordan, and Morocco will be given control of humanitarian aid entering the Gaza Strip, but only to safe areas. Now, the safe areas are for selected Palestinians that basically abandon any kind of resistance ideology and can be normalized with Israel again under the Abraham Accords. Phase 2, Israel to maintain overall security responsibility, which means military rule, oppression, apartheid, and imprisonment and torture and ritual abuse of Palestinians, as we have seen for the last 75 years. Palestinians from Gaza will form the Rehabilitation Authority, which will manage the safe areas, ghettos basically, and ensure they are free of radical resistance ideology. So comparisons were made in the report to the Marshall Plan, which, of course, in my opinion, should be ridiculed when taken in the context of the protection and renaissance of Nazism under US-UK protection in the West since the end of World War II. And the final phase, the selected Palestinians will govern areas of the Gaza enclave and will join the Abraham Accords. It is expected that the Nazi elements in Netanyahu's coalition regime, such as Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, will be opposed to any kind of Palestinian rule, even, if you like, indoctrinated, reprogrammed Gazan rule. Now, you can freeze this and read what are the supposed advantages to these countries. So you have Israel, the United States, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Gazans, as they're claiming, and Morocco, who are to be involved in this plan. However, many of those countries are putting out staunch denials of any involvement, and incentives will be put in front of the people who have been starved, bombed, deprived, and terrified on a 24/7 basis inside Gaza, of course. Free trade zones in Gaza and Al Arish in the Sinai, in Egypt, trade with Europe, the US and Gulf states, rail links, energy and regional infrastructure development. However, as I ask in my article, will the Palestinians be allowed to leave their so-called safe areas, or will they continue to live in militarized and segregated ghettos while all of this economy and trade goes on around them? The development of the Gaza gas reservoirs will finally happen, but will be of no benefit to Palestinians, of course. Solar fields are proposed in the Sinai, which will provide energy for regional desalination facilities after years of Israel bombing and destroying Gaza's desalination capabilities and depriving Gaza of the energy to run the plants. Electric vehicles will be manufactured in the northern Gaza Strip. Factories will be established in these areas and in the occupied territories neighboring Gaza. Raw materials will come from Saudi Arabia and the Emirates. Cars coming off the production line will be shipped to Europe from the port at Al Arish. The rebuilding of Gaza will require raw materials and services from the Gulf states, which will create for them demand and opportunity for foreign investment. Another image of the proposed post-war Gaza. And from the New York Times, a claim that the UAE and Saudi officials said that the new proposal would not secure the involvement of Arab states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, particularly because it stopped short of guaranteeing Palestinian sovereignty and would permit continued Israeli military operations inside Gaza. The Saudi government has said it will not normalize ties with Israel unless Israeli leaders take irrevocable steps towards creating a Palestinian state. However, this is an article in Foreign Policy from just after the Iranian attack on Israel on April the 13th. Arab countries have Israel's back for their own sake. So let's see what they're arguing in this article, which actually I do agree with. Last weekend, there was a lot of commentary on social media and elsewhere expressing amazement at a new Middle East in which countries of the region coordinated an effort to thwart Iran's attack on Israel. There is something to be said for that. But what's more amazing when one takes a step back is that war has not actually changed the region that much. Regional governments still hate and fear Iran, harbor no particular commitment to Palestinian justice, and want good relations with Israel and desire American leadership. And also to come back to that idea of Gaza as a trade and economy hub, of course, it would be at the center of the IMEC, the Indian, Middle East, European corridor, which we have discussed previously. So it's very clear from this, and in my opinion, these plans are not new. These plans were put together some time ago, if not years ago, and Israel and the US and the normalized state see an opportunity now to, one, resolve the Palestinian issue by giving Palestinians some degree of safe areas inside Gaza, while building the Dubai of the future inside Gaza, profiting from the gas and profiting from the position of Gaza geographically as an economic and trade hub. So not anything new, in my opinion. This has been in the pipeline for years, and now they're exploiting the genocide that is ongoing in Gaza to present the roadmap.
Was there any indication, Vanessa, given about when this PowerPoint presentation was delivered to Netanyahu? Because, of course, what springs to my mind is his General Assembly speech a couple of months ago, which sort of came out of nowhere and you know, well, in fact, it must be 6 months ago now, sprang out of nowhere and was completely out of context, it seems. So do you think this had already been delivered to him at this stage?
Well, the plan was actually, the PowerPoint presentation and the plan were given to him in December. But I think it's likely that this plan was in the pipeline for even longer than 7 months, because I think he gave that speech at the UNGA shortly before the 7th of October, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And what he was actually talking about was the IMEC, the Indian, Middle East, European corridor. So clearly, all of this project, in my opinion, has been in the pipeline for a long time. What October the 7th did was to give Israel the pretext and the justification to actually really start the genocide and ethnic cleansing of Gaza in preparation for launching this project.
And I just wanted to get your thoughts on the involvement of other Arab countries in this, because you said that you think some countries, or you've heard some countries absolutely denying their involvement in this. Is that because they view it being the wrong time?
Yeah, I think, yes, it's they're playing a political game. I think for Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, and UAE, let's not forget, has been providing the land bridge to compensate for the shutting down of shipping in the Red Sea by Yemen. And that land bridge crosses through Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. We should also remember the Saudi Jordanian money that's pouring into the Sinai for Egypt, the promises by the US to give Egypt $10 billion for effectively taking in Palestinian refugees, the millions that have recently been given by the EU to Egypt for so-called humanitarian aid that has not been allowed into Gaza. So there is a lot of shuffling going around, but I think Saudi Arabia particularly wants to maintain the optic of pushing for a Palestinian state. But I think further down the road, what they may well do is say, yes, but we've given Gazans the opportunity to live in these safe areas and to profit from the economy and trade that we're building inside Gaza, provided they no longer adhere to any kind of resistance ideology.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Vanessa.